Hello again and welcome to this first edition of Shed Talk in 2025. Of course, Shed Talk is my weekly magazine video series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of cage birds with a particular focus on the exhibition style budgerigar. And as the title of this episode might suggest, it's been a pretty intense Christmas period for me here in the budgerigar shed. In fact, we've had probably more excitement than the Christmas episode of EastEnders. And we will get on to talk about that in just a second. As always, Happy New Year to you. Hope you had a relatively peaceful Christmas and are looking forward to the breeding season in 2025. Thanks for all those who took the time to comment on the last couple of videos, and in particular those who took the time to wish me a happy 2025 and a very happy Christmas. So thanks again to all of you. So right then, let's talk about these budgerigars, shall we? They are sent to try us, aren't they? The breeding season is sent to try us, and I must say that the last week and a bit has been a real trial. So let's have a look at those cages that have caused me the most problems. So like I said, in no particular order then, we're going to start with cage number 5. And you will probably remember this cage. This cage contained a relatively youngish pair, so and an unproven pair. We had a green cockbird that we'd paired to a Lutino hen, and all was going really well. Very surprising how well this pair had gone. So they laid a total of 6 eggs, and of which 4 were full. So I couldn't really complain about that. Cockbird was obviously knew what his part to play in all this was, and had filled the eggs. We were waiting on the first of those eggs to hatch. The first egg hatched, and there was that concern, as you always have, particularly with a maiden hen, whether or not she was going to feed it. She fed the chick, so again I was really pleased, and we were just waiting for the final 3 eggs to hatch, and that's where it all went wrong. So came in expecting to open the nest box and find that second chick hatched, and lo and behold, the nest box was clear other than the original chick and one dead youngster that was still inside half of the shell. All the other eggs had gone. There was still bits of blood in the nest box, and so really disappointed. The chick that was that had hatched had been fed and was still alive, so that wasn't a real problem. So looking back on this, where do I think things have gone wrong? So the day before this all happened, when I was checking the nest box, the hen had come out and the cockbird was desperately trying to tread her. So she was very unreceptive to that, as you might imagine. She's got full eggs and at least 1 chick to feed and expecting the others to hatch. So I didn't really think too much of this. But looking back, hindsight being a wonderful thing, looking back on this, I wonder if this cockbird is in over-conditioned, so he's desperate to go back down again. And I'm beginning to wonder, given that he spent some time and continues to spend time in the nest box, whether he has just destroyed the remaining eggs in the hope that the hen will go down again. That's my suspicion. Now, I'm left with a bit of a problem here. Do I remove the cockbird and let the hen bring this single chick up on her own? That's option number 1. Option number 2 is, do I remove the chick from here and move it up to the cage above, where we are expecting or have been expecting chicks to hatch around about the same time as this nest box. Currently there's one egg in there that's a little bit late hatching, I think. So whether that first one has become adult or not, I don't know. So that's the other option. Move the chick up to the nest box, nest box above, where we've got proven, we know that pair bring chicks up. Or do I just leave them to it and hopefully let them bring this final chick up? Let me know your thoughts on which of those three you would do. For me, I'm inclined to move this chick out of this nest box up into the nest box above, just because I don't want to risk this cockbird killing the final chick that's in there. Assuming it is the cockbird that is the culprit here, I can't see any other reason why the hen would have destroyed those eggs. But who knows? Anyway, so that's this nest box number, or cage number 5. As you can probably see, I'm really disappointed with this because I wanted to get some more inos off of this pair, and it looked like we were going to get split inos or inos off of the first round. Things were going well. Setback. Still, like I say, 3 options from my point of view. If you have any others, let me know. And let me know your thoughts on what you would do with this particular pair. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the second of the setbacks that happened over Christmas, and that happened in cage number 6. So cage number 6, you might remember again, this was another pair that had been going really well, and I think when we left it the last time, we had, I think it was 4 chicks in here, and a couple of, or at least one of the chicks from there had been moved across into cage number 4. So I was just waiting on these now to finish bringing the youngsters up in here. We know one of the youngsters definitely is splayed legs, but the other 3 that were in this nest box were fine. They were all being fed beautifully, all doing really well. Then I came in, and I think actually it was on Christmas Day, came in here, so not the best of Christmas presents, to find the hen had died. She was outside the nest box, laid on the bottom of the cage. I had seen no sign whatsoever that this hen was ill. She come out of the nest box. Every time I knocked her out, she'd go back in. Like I say, was feeding the youngsters fine. When I checked her over, there was no fouling around the vent, so it certainly wasn't that. But she was quite thin, and I am wondering whether she just was spending all her time feeding the chicks and no time feeding herself. And I know, that sometimes can happen. I hadn't really noticed it, like I say. Anyway, hen died. So what do I do here? I've got 4 chicks in there, 1 quite young chick and 3 older chicks. And I've got a cockbird. Now, the only place I could move any of the chicks to would have been to cage number 4. Where we'd already moved one of the youngsters, and you might remember that some of the eggs in this one, we had put additional eggs in here to stop the egg eater. Anyway, so that was the only place I could have moved them. My gut instinct was that the older chicks were just too old to move, partly because they were all young and they were starting to feather up, and I don't think she would have taken to the older chicks. The other problem, of course, if I had moved all of the chicks from there into there, I end up putting a big burden on the hen in that nest box, and I run the risk of losing the hen there too. So I had to think quite quickly. I took the youngest chick out of this nest box and moved it into cage number 3, cage number 4, and left the 3 oldest chicks in that nest box. After I had, I'll go back slightly, so that it was clear that the chicks still had full crops. So either the hen had died after feeding them, or the cockbird had carried on feeding after she had died. I wasn't sure which one it was. So anyway, after I had topped the soft food up in around here, I sat and watched this cockbird. I had to watch for ages actually. It felt like ages, because he spent probably, I don't know, 5 minutes just filling himself up on the soft food, just eating the soft food. However, after that, he went into the nest box, and the chicks were calling to be fed, and he spent some time in there and then come out and started feeding again, and then went back in again. So I made the assumption, I didn't check, but I made the assumption that he was feeding the youngsters. Next day, the youngsters were still alive. They weren't completely full crop, so they felt quite empty. I was a little bit worried that perhaps he'd, given up on them. So again, I watched him after I'd put the soft food in. Again, he spent ages and ages eating soft food, then went back in the nest box. Chicks were calling, and I assumed that he was feeding them. Anyway, that's a little while ago now, so it's been probably about a week since, well, if you're watching this, it's been over a week since the hen had died in here. And touch wood, cockbird is continuing to feed the 3 remaining youngsters that are in here, including the one that has got splayed feet. So I am hopeful that he is going to bring these up on his own. I think if they'd been any younger and weren't quite so vocal for calling for food, he might have just left them. But as they were all relatively older, and I think that their strength in calling persuaded him to go in there. He has 3 chicks in there to bring up. I am relatively happy to let him bring those chicks up. I wouldn't have anywhere else to put them anyway, but I don't think that's going to put a massive strain on that particular bird. Anyway, so that's the second of the setbacks. There is one other slight setback that we'll move on to now. We'll move across to cage 3, where I said I'd moved one of the chicks from there into cage number 3, and talk a little bit about what happened in that particular cage. So cage number 4, this was the egg eating cage, and you might remember we'd managed to persuade them not to eat eggs, and this pair had so it had 2 chicks in there, one of its own. One was a chick that we'd moved some time ago from cage number 6, the cage we just looked at. I was waiting on one final egg to hatch here. That hatched and was fed by mum. This was before the disaster happened in cage number 6. So I was reasonably happy that it had been fed. The day after it had hatched, I had the problem with cage number 6, and was left with that issue. What do I do? I moved the youngest one out of there into here. The unfortunate thing, and I don't know whether it's a direct result of that or whatever, but the next day I found the youngest chick, so the one that had just hatched, had died. And again, my guess is that because there were 2 slightly older chicks and there are now 3 older chicks, it just got lost. Now, should I have left that youngest chick in cage number 6? Again, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I would probably say yes, I probably should have done. And hopefully the youngest one in here would have survived, or it might have survived. There's only a mite there, bearing in mind the other 2 adults were quite old. Sorry, the other 2 chicks were a bit older. But yeah, I guess I had to make the decision, quite quickly, and my gut feeling was that 4 chicks in there were going to be too much for that, or 4 chicks in the cage number 6 were going to be too much for that single cockbird to bring up. There was always a risk that he wasn't going to feed any of them, and I would lose all of the chicks in there. So I still think that I made the right decision in moving the youngest chick. It was a real shame that we lost the final chick off of cage number 4, but I guess that's the way these things go, don't they? And I think I said it, you know, in the last episode I was all really upbeat about how the breeding season was going and how everything seemed to be going really, really well, and said, you know, at the times when things go badly for you, or if those people that were having a bad breeding season, just remember the good times. So I look back now and think, actually, things aren't, you know, they still could be far, far worse. I'm just left with this one problem of cage number 5 and what I'm going to do about that final chick that's in there, and whether I do move it up to the cage above. But there we are, that's the way it is going so far. Setback after Christmas, 2025 coming up, new year, hopefully things will begin to improve as we go into the new year and we won't have quite so many problems in the cages. Right, so that's it really, where we are with the setback from the year. With the remainder of the cages, the new pair in cage number 1, currently looking all right. Hen's gone in there, cleared the nest box out. Cock and the hen are feeding each other, or cock's bird's feeding the hen. Haven't seen them mating yet, so I'm hoping they will be. So I'm hoping that will be going well. Cage number 2, on their second round, we have full eggs. I'm waiting for the first of those eggs to hatch. Like I say, it's a little bit late, but I am still hopeful that even if that one doesn't hatch, we will probably get the next 3 hatch that are full in that particular cage. And cage number 3, a little bit of a, I suppose a little bit of a not quite so well, and that all the eggs in there appear to be clear. It might be that the last 2 have got something in them. It still might be a little bit too early to confirm they're clear, but they look, to all intents and purposes, to me, they look like those last 2 eggs are also clear, like the first 4. So we'll have to wait and see there. If they are all clear, I'm going to remove those eggs and probably will let that pair go for one more round, that hen, but no more than that. And then I will find that cockbird a different hen, hopefully. Anyway, there we are. I still need to work out what I'm going to do with cage number 6, because we've got a cockbird in there who we know can fill eggs. And what do we do once those chicks are weaned? Whether I find him a new hen or whether I find a new pair for cage number 6. Anyway, that will be for a future episode. Like I say, let me know your thoughts on whether the setbacks have been and what you would do, particularly about that single hen in that single chick in cage number 4. Right, there we are then. That's a roundup of all of the cages. So that does bring us to the end of another episode of Shed Talk. Before we go, I just thought I'd like to mention that the Canary Room, Matt Eld's YouTube channel, Matt's announced that he is bringing his YouTube channel to an end, and I am sure he will be sadly missed by all those of you, he's a 5 canary breeder, but I think anybody who watches or is interested in bird keeping and watches his channel over the I think it's 7 years that he's been producing them. Over those 7 years would have found something very, very interesting, and there is always something to learn, and he has certainly entertained me with many a useful episode. So just to wish Matt all the best for the future. He is still going to produce videos, but his sort of Canary Room updates, as I understand it, have drawn to a close. So all the best, Matt, and thank you very, very much for your contribution to bird keeping on YouTube. If you enjoy this episode, then please don't forget to hit the like button. If you want to see more of them, then please do subscribe to the channel, and don't forget, if you hit the bell icon, then you should get an email notification of every time I upload a new video, which is, I aim to upload them anyway on every Sunday morning. So there we go. All that remains for me to say is, as always, do stay safe, and enjoy your birds.